Hello everyone and welcome to this amazing game played between Magnus Carlson and Nepo from the World Championship which is being held in Dubai right now. And although the it's game 4 going to happen today between them, and I'm still reviewing game 1 and game 2 and game 3 and all. So I really apologize for that. Although I read so many things about these games which actually, I was quite impressed with these games and so many things which happened between them. The interaction, the fun they had there on the boat, and the way they played. Mm, but even though they had so many draws there, still Magnus Carlsen will. I don't know. Like it's just game 4, and almost like 10 games have to be played on more. So let's see what will happen in the game 14. What will the standings when the game 14 will be starting? And currently the standings are like 1.5 and 1.5. The points are same for both of them. But still the Magnus Carlsen is leading with the first position and Nepo in the second, even though they both are playing only. Okay, so let's not just waste any more time and let's just dive into the game. Okay, so Nepo, as you can see on the screen, Nepo with the white pieces starts with e4, basically king's pawn opening. Magnus replies with e5, and then Nepo goes for knight f6, f3, sorry, my bad, knight f3, sorry, my bad, so sorry. And to it, we all know what Magnus will play. It's knight to c6, basically going for the king's knight opening normal variation, but still there are so many chances of that he will go for Royal Lopez, which we have seen like on most day-to-day life. Like so, Nepo actually goes for the Royal Lopez game. Magnus replies with a6, basically going for the Morphy defense, and then bishop to a4, which we always see like day to day happening in the chess player life. So there's nothing new here. Then knight f6, castles, Nepo castles, bishop to e7, basically preparing for the castling and giving extra support to his knight for this pawn and this move, something like that. So my bad. This move, something like that. So rook e1, basically going for the Royal Lopez closed edition, sorry, edition what I said. And b5, bishop back to b3, and then Magnus castles. Then h3, basically nothing new here. Like we have just played so many times these games, we know what the variations are going to be like. Then knight to a5, basically attacking the bishop and guarding these so many precious squares. So knight captures, then knight takes b3, a takes b3, opening the semi-open file for the rook, bishop b7, d3, d5, and e takes d5, basically trying to get this or this. We have two attacks, actually three attacks here. So Nepalese will do something about it or will just forget about the pawn. And but Magnus needs to take this pawn like this three pawn island, four pawn islands, and all cause he's down two pieces actually, not one, just two pieces actually. Then queen takes, because he didn't guard it, he didn't care about Nepo didn't care about this pawn at all. So Queen F3 basically asking for a queen trade, and he could have traded it like this and something like this if he doesn't want this double pawn here. But he went for this knight bishop d6, basically attacking this knight. So if Nepo takes, he takes, and this like this. So even though there's nothing happening good on the board, but he can if Magnus went for like rook e8 and something like that, then it might make a sense. But right now it doesn't make any sense. So king to f1, rook to b8, basically guarding this bishop here. Cause if uh, like Magnus basically wants to move his queen or to trade, but he doesn't want to trade at right now at least. So he might go somewhere like this and all. Like there are so many beautiful squares right now for the queen to go. Okay, so queen takes on d5, basically going for queen exchange. Magnus can't do anything at all. So bishop takes. Oh, sorry, my bad. Knight takes on d5. Then bishop d2, basically guarding this important square for like if knight could have just jumped here, then it was like a devastating place to protect this pawn. Like if knight went something like this or like in this trade, but still cannot make any sense here. It will just be a heavy mistake which cannot be cured at all, just like COVID. Okay, so what really happened on the board was c5. Basically, if Magnus wants to what's the term? God, I really forgot. Push. Sorry, my bad. Magnus wants to push this pawn, so it will be completely, under threat. This pawn will be really difficult to guard this pawn. Even if we just go for here, it won't make any sense because we have to now protect this pawn too, that to here, and this pawn's hanging and all. So many pawns are hanging there, so it will just make no sense. So Nepo went knight to f3, basically going to somewhere like this and not this. If we push this, then this, and guarding this pawn and guarding this square. So rook to d8, knight c3, b4 now. Now basically attacking this, and now it's your turn. Like, what will you choose if you want to protect this rook or this rook? Like, you can just guess it for a while. Um, but any player who would be there, he would definitely take this because they would definitely want to give this rook an open file, not just a semi-open file. But in the actual game, Nepo played rook to c1, rook to ec1, basically, and then rook ac8, knight to e2, knight back to c6, basically going like this and this, which will be a pretty much good square for a knight, or maybe this. Then bishop to e3, be attacking this pawn, knight to e7, bishop to f4, asking for a trade between the bishops, and it would simply Magnus would have captured, it won't lead anything to him cause like there'll be a double pawn and all. It will be just a worsening position for Nepo, probably, but it will be pretty much good to defend him, to defend these two pawns, right? Like this, somewhere king to this and this and all. So what actually happened? Magnus captured it, giving a double pawn here. Then he captured this bishop, captures, and then rook to c6, basically going to attack this and this pawn both. Then rook to e1, attacking and this knight f5. Like I said, he could go here and all. It's just an amazing knight here. Then c3, knight h4, rook e3, king f8, preventing any back right mates and all. And now he just have to push this pawn, like he didn't really cared about this pawn anymore. Then knight to g2, knight f5, giving an attack on this rook. Rook to e5, giving attack on the knight. And he really needs to move it somewhere else, like somewhere on a good square. Like he cannot just exchange it, so he will definitely have to protect it, because there is no other good square for the knight. Like even though if we can go here, but it just not really makes sense now. It will just waste of move. So g6, then knight to e1, guarding this pawn too. Then and also I was like, I forgot to say, like this pawn just plays an important role. Like if this pawn would have been pushed like earlier, like this at this point, so it would just be an amazing game for Magnus. Like he can go here, and if he attacks with the rook, he don't have to really worry about this knight. Like he can just simply capture this, grab this pawn, and then he can move for this pawn too, because there is nothing else to do here, and he will get his lost pawn back. But he didn't play it. He went for king f8. This, like we all saw that. Then he projected this pawn, so he couldn't capture it back. Okay, then knight to g7, rook e4, going back, and f5, and many players would just went here, but it wouldn't just make any sense like this. Even if you capture this pawn, give an attack on this knight, and it doesn't care. So it will be just a pretty much bad game here. Like he can attack him, and there's no good square for the rook to go. The rook is completely trapped. Like this square is guarded by this rook. This square is guarded by the knight. This square is guarded by the pawn. So that rook was just simply trapped. Beware of such traps actually. And the best move simply would be to go back to e3, protecting this pawn, double, and this pawn. Then knight to e6, knight to g2, and then b4, basically trading these pawns and giving an open file here to the rook. So you can't just simply take this and this, because it will be a heavy blunder, because this rook will get inside, and it will be sorry, my bad. Even if you no sorry, if you start going for the attacks, you can be just completely screwed up. You are like this and all, and on so many exchanges, so it will you can just be screwed up. Okay, so anyway, what really happened was king e2, protecting this pawn and this pawn, so that it cannot be now captured and moved like this and this. Okay, so rook to b8, king b2, guarding this pawn now. Then b takes c3 check, b takes c3 captures, and this pawn, Magnus gained its lost pawn. Now king to c2, attacking the rook. Even he could just double it, but it won't simply make any sense, because if this knight will be hanging, because if we just take the rook, he is losing his knight and the rook. So it just won't simply make sense. Sorry. So now h4, king f7, rook e1, king f6, basically coming back to bringing his king back to the center. And now knight e3, rook d7, knight c4, now king e7, and here's nothing you can do actually. Like, it's just a draw position. Like, rook to d6, all these pawns are, like, you know, heavily guarded by this knight and this dark squares. If you have bishop, then it would have make sense, but if you can't just really do anything. Like for black, here these pawns, 3 pawn island and 2 pawns, and these will just, it's a draw actually. It's like I've just said the result, and it's actually a draw. Like you will just have to draw by repetition, have to take a draw either by repetition or by agreement. That's the only chance. So knight to e5, rook to d6, and knight to c4, and this is how it resulted in a draw in the game 1. Okay, so guys, thanks for watching, and this was the game 1 of the World Championship. I will be reviewing game 2, game 3, game 4, and 2 game 14 ASAP. But right now it's just a game 1, and the scores are 0.5, 0.5 if I tell about the game day 1. And currently it's actually 1.5, both of them, 1.5 for all. And if you have just, I know it's not the perfect review game for this championship, world class game, but I'm still trying to learn many more things. So please forgive me for that. And thanks for watching. And if you have time, you can check the reviews of my other games too. That was playing between me, of course. And if you like the video, please do press the like button. I really need it, and subscribe to the channel. I will be definitely creating more videos content like this. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.